All right, welcome back to another episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks. Once again, continuing with our top 10 players of 2023 rankings. I am Dakota. We're joined by Timothy, the resident scum himself. And joining us again for our running back episode, as he has been the last few years, is Mr. Michael Fluri. How are? Oh, look at the guns!
The Irish
man here.
Guns out, hair down. Look at this man.
Look at mountain man over here. Took him right off the mountain, off the rocky trail.
I was gonna say,
you live in Colorado.
Sculpted like a mountain in Colorado.
You live in Colorado long enough. This is just what you look like.
I was only there for like 4 months, so I guess it didn't work fast enough.
Well, that's how you got the beard, though, right? That's where the beard.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
there we go.
You got the long hair and the beard. I mean, I look like an infant compared to you two, hairy beasts.
Yeah.
We'll see. No comment, Timo. I'll let you have a good day.
That's all right. Well, listen. My list is great. My shower drain isn't clogged, as I'm sure both of you probably fish out your shower drain like 3 times a day, like with those long hairs.
Mm-hmm.
I could already see it. What's the technique do we use? Do we use a plunger? Do we they don't know those snake thingies? This isn't something I do.
Nah. That's the finger scoop. Yeah. Dakota knows what he's doing. Yeah. Dakota's culture.
Oh, God, that is disgusting. I love running my hands through my hair, especially when it's got my, shower scum off it. Just wash the scum off my body onto my discarded hair and scoop it out like an animal.
That's how you keep it looking moist, Timo.
Yeah,
that's
you're used to scum on your hands, Timo. You
don't know what
you use. Upgrade your life. Use like a fork or like one of those plumber snakes or something.
Fork.
I don't know.
You mean the forks that you use to eat dinner with? What's wrong with you?
I mean, you use your hands to eat dinner too.
I'm not a barbarian.
Oh, well, stay. Listen, problems I don't have to deal with. I'm civilized and clean shaven. Gentle. Just get the little stubble. The stubble is what you need. Just a little character.
I recall early in our podcast years on peak COVID, you were rocking a beard and a mustache.
Oh, that was out. Yeah, that was out of choice.
That mustache was
there was no
filthy.
choice in that. It was beautiful.
I
do miss the mustache, to be honest. The beard's too sweaty for me. It's uncomfortable. It's too sweaty. I could do the mustache. I like flavor saver. I just give it a lick every once in a while. It's like a lollipop.
Whatever you say, man.
Yeah, man.
Like I said, top 10 running backs, a tough list. I feel like we're going to see a little bit of a lot of young talent kind of thrown in here, and then a lot of like veteran, older talent that's maybe slipping a little bit. I'm curious to see how all 3 of our lists kind of match up with each other. But as we always do, got to give out some participation trophies. So, Flurry, if you want to start with our honorable mentions, go right ahead.
So I got 3. I'll just go through them pretty quick. James Conner. He didn't have that great of a season. He was hurt, but he still had a solid season. He's a Pittsburgh boy. Wow. I love him, and I love.
Yeah, that's a
the Steeler love clearly carries on to players that shouldn't be on this list, but hell, they were a Steeler at one point, so why not?
I admit my biases, though. Okay, so I just like to see he's still doing okay, man. He's like 28, 29 years old. I think he'll have a solid season as long as he stays healthy. Miles Sanders had a great season. The only thing is they brought in DeAndre Swift. I don't know how good he's going to be, but Miles Sanders, I had to give him a shout out. Tony Pollard is my 3rd one, and I think he should explode. With Zeke on, we'll see how he handles the full workload, but I think he's going to have he's primed for a solid season. And I have a little small list here just to add on to this segment.
Okay.
So these are not my honorable mentions. Okay, these guys on this list are called the bold and brash.
Bold and brash.
Okay.
More like
a
belongs in the trash.
Oh shit.
Oh, all right. Wow, this is aggressive.
SpongeBob shout out right there. All right, I'm gonna run through them real quick. Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Joe Mixon. Crumble it up, throw it over your shoulder, and don't ever look back, man. If you look, these names should never be mentioned again. And if either of you two mention these guys in your top 10, I've lost all respect, man. And if I could just give a shout out to Joe Mixon in his 800 yards at 3.9 a carry, 7 touchdowns, but 5 came in one game. The guy is trash. All those guys you can crumble up, toss over your shoulder, and never talk about it again.
Well, Dakota, I always plan on going off on you from stupid takes. You're getting the week off this week.
Nice.
Bold and brash. James Conner gets in over that lineup. Wow, that is amazing.
That is interesting.
I'll take James Conner over all those guys.
I'll wait to get to them. You know what? I don't have Zeke on my list. He didn't make my honorable mention, so I'll let that one go. Joe Mixon, he's my number 13. He's my 13 honorable mention, so I think we're all in agreement there. Big name, down year. We'll see what happens with him. He's arrested again. The other two definitely on my list, so we'll get to them later. But finish on my honorable mentions. I went with Tony Pollard as well. I thought he's decent, had a good year, 1,000 yards rushing. Let's see what happens now that Zeke's gone. I know Zeke was hobbling, wasn't the same player, but it still helps to have him in the backfield to help take some attention off. There's no longer Tony Pollard falling onto the radar, second fiddle. He's the big guy now. And then my number 11, he's my favorite running back going into this year that no one is giving credit to. He's my Josh Jacobs. If there's one running back that's going to break out and be in the top 5 next year, it's this guy. I loved him in college. I think he's in a great situation. I really liked when he drafted him. I'm going with ETN from the Jaguars.
Okay.
He's a dual threat beast, man. He's in that, prime Joe Mixon, that Dalvin Cook. I think he could be like Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler type of receiver. I love him with Lawrence, with Dougie P. The guy's going to have a huge year. Fine. He's my top 5 catapult kind of guy this year.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hate to agree with the two of you, but as much of a Joe Mixon advocate I have been, it's clear to see that there's a downward spiral he is going. Like Flurry mentioned, under 4 yards per carry. The touchdowns were rough. Now, I will say I think Cincinnati is also really pushing more of the passing game now that Burrow's really established. They have 3 great wide receivers. So I think he's losing touches anyways. But then, like Tim said, who knows? He might be in jail by the time the season starts.
Yeah.
I really liked him.
Always a negative.
We'll see if he can bounce back. But, yeah, he is in my honorable mentions this year. Another honorable mention I have, again, surprising, Alvin Kamara. Ever since Drew Brees left, he declined. And ever since Sean Payton's been gone, he's declined. The writing's on the wall. I don't know. I mean, he had that trouble with the law a while back. It's just the production has dropped off so much, and I feel like nobody's really mentioned it enough that it's like I don't even know where he fits in. And because he used to be that, Christian McCaffrey type, where explosive receiver, explosive runner, and if you look at his stats, he's not even catching the ball anymore. He's not getting a lot of receptions. So we'll see what happens this year. But for right now, he is unfortunately an honorable mention. And then lastly, a guy, you want to shout out Miles Sanders, of course, but he's now Carolina Panther. We'll see what happens with him. But I think a riser that I don't have on my list, Kenneth Walker, Seattle Seahawks. I think Seattle likes to rotate running backs, and they did just draft another guy in the second round. But I think this guy, he's had a phenomenal rookie year. So
if he stayed healthy, he's probably a top 10 on this list.
Yeah,
if he stayed healthy, he was definitely on his way. I think he was. He may have had 1,000. He nearly was going to have it. I will say I'll jump the line just because the transition is too well, and this is kind of what I do anyway. Because my number 10, and don't get me wrong, I do echo the same sentiments you guys had because I dropped him back from 7 to 10, but I gave him a nod and I kept him on the list. So my 10 was actually Alvin Kamara. And I thought, listen, I was between him and ETN, and I really, really like ETN a lot, but it just felt weird to just throw Alvin Kamara in the trash, as Flurry said. I don't know what the hell you're thinking there, but look at his. I know you're saying his production dropped off, but look at his rushing numbers. He had 897 rushing yards. That's the second. That's like his average. That was the second most of his entire career. His touchdowns were down. Don't get me wrong. He had 4 total touchdowns. Receiving yards were also down to 490. So his average wasn't great, but it was mostly the receiving yards that kind of took a hit. The whole offense fell back. That whole offense stunk. He lost his best offensive lineman. Jameis is not a good quarterback. I think he's going to have a bounce back year with Michael Thomas potentially coming back. Who knows? And Derek Carr under center. I'm not he's still an impact player. That offense just was terrible. And I still think, he didn't put up Alvin Kamara numbers in the receiving game and about the receiving game only because he put up 900 yards rushing. The touchdowns weren't there, but This is a guy I think is going to go right back on the top of the rankings after this year. The offense has improved. He needs some help. This was a transition year with the offense. Michael Thomas didn't play again. Drew Brees was gone. They had Jameis and whoever out there playing. They had to replace Tyron Armstead with a rookie. It's just there was a lot of moving pieces. He was set up for failure, but top 10 running backs, he's still a top 10 running back.
I mean, I disagree, man. Even with Michael Thomas missing almost all of last year, you would think his receiving numbers would boost. They didn't, man. I don't think he's not being utilized right.
He's the only target. They had to take him away. He was the only one catching the ball.
Chris Olave,
Jameis throwing the ball to you.
Chris Olave, was there. That should have distracted him some. Look, man.
No. Alvin Kamara distracted for Chris Olave. Don't think people were going into game plans thinking Chris Olave is the one we got to
coming out of the backfield. That's not.
So he's still catching the ball just as much as anyone else.
With Michael Thomas gone, he should have had a boost, and he had a decline. That's not good. His production has dropped, and he had that. I forget what happened exactly, but whatever happened last year, domestic violence or something. I heard last year he might be suspended this year. Yeah, I forget.
He beat someone up in Vegas. Everyone does that. It's just,
yeah. All the greats like Joe Mixon. You know what I mean?
That's half my fantasy team right there. They're all in jail.
That just tells the character guys that Dakota keeps on his team. The character.
Hey, I was in the championship. Team. What do you want to?
Urban Meyer over there. He'll take them regardless of what their criminal history is.
First team all probation, bro.
Yeah,
there you go. There you go.
Listen. I think he had a lot going on. No Breeze, no Thomas, no Armstead. A lot of moving pieces. Olave, Thomas, Derek Carr, they'll be fine this year. He'll be right back to where he is. But I can understand the hate. I had him at 10. He went back. I had him 7 last year. But I couldn't put him in. I couldn't put these other guys, Pollard and Etienne, who I've only seen do it once, over him. But all right, get to your number 10 there, you Woodland.
So honestly, you had him in your honorable mentions, but I have Kenneth Walker. I think he's poised for a big season this year. Okay. And I know people are kind of worried that they drafted Zach Charbonnet, but I'm not too worried. They had Rashad Penny, who had a devastating injury last year, and Rashad Penny was getting a decent workload before that.
Now it's all done.
I think exactly. I think he's a solid running back when he's healthy. I think Zach is more of an insurance option, man. You look at his rookie year, he had 1,000 yards, 9 TDs, and that's with the first 4 games being Rashad Penny's backup. Mm-hmm. I think as long as Geno continues to play well, I think he's poised for a big year. I don't see Zach, maybe Kenneth Walker's not a total bell cow, but I don't see Zach splitting carries or anything like that. So I think Kenneth Walker's poised for a big year.
Yeah, I think they drafted him more for, just health and rotation. But yeah, I agree. Right. I think Walker, that's his show. He was just outside. He was like my 11 probably. And looking at it now too, because I had, 2022, I had Kamara was number 4. I had Cook. Dalvin Cook's not on my list. He was number 6. And I had Joe Mixon at 7. That's 3 guys off the list. Pretty high too.
Can I don't mean to, but now you're on this. Dalvin Cook is on neither your top 10 list.
Bro, he's in my bold and brash list, homie.
I don't. You can't stay healthy, man.
That is in.
No, he's not on a team.
He played every game.
He's not on a team.
He played every game last year.
He's not on a team.
That was the first time in how long?
Wait, so you're gonna punish him for playing every game in he had 1,200 yards rushing.
He's unemployed. Me and him have the same. He's unemployed, bro. Me and him have the same opportunities right now, bro. He's unemployed.
Jeez. This is the most idiotic argument I've ever heard.
That's a pretty solid
because he doesn't have a job right now. That's why.
Yes, you can't rush for yards if you don't have a job, bro.
I mean, I can't argue with that logic there. But
it's solid logic.
The season wasn't starting tomorrow. I mean, listen. Saquon Barkley saying he's about to miss, week 1. Am I going to hold him back? Because apparently he's not going to go out there play games. I'm more confident Dalvin Cook plays week 1 than I am Saquon Barkley right now. Dalvin Cook played every game last year. Dakota, he's inconsistent. He played every game, so now we're going to punish him. He's finally healthy. The guy had 1,200 yards rushing last year. I'm baffled that you're both taking this idiotic stance. He's had over 1,000 yards the last 4 seasons. You're taking a guy all right, take Kenneth Walker. This guy's had a rookie year, didn't even finish it, and he had less rushing yards than Dalvin Cook. I am baffled by your stupidity,
Timo,
and we're not even at number 10.
Timo, do you have any plans to join the Ringling Brothers with those mental gymnastics you're doing? Because that's
boy.
Dalvin Cook does not have a job, bro, and he's in your top 10.
So if he gets signed in the middle of this episode, can we just all appreciate that you're both buffoons? So basically, until he gets signed, you're not a buffoon, but once he gets signed, you're a buffoon. Is that what we're agreeing on? Because that seems to be your biggest issue with him right now, is he's just not employed.
Look, man, yeah. To put it simply, yeah. It's a big deal.
So I don't know if my math is correct here, but
it probably isn't.
He's played. Shut up. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's been in the NFL for 6 years. Okay. Out of 97 career possible games, he's only played 73. So this was the first year in his career that he's played all 17 or even all 16.
So, but the argument of him being inconsistent should not be in a factor now when he just played an entire season. This is not the moment to be bringing that argument up when he just. What do you do? That was
the outlier, Timo. That was the outlier.
You're injury prone your whole career, and you have one healthy year, then you're cool. Like what? That's not how it works.
So hold on. Let me ask you both. Where was Dalvin Cook on your list last year? Because you both had him in the top 10.
He was 6th on mine last year.
6th. So the guy who you ignored his injury problems last year, but then the guy goes out there, plays every single game, goes to a Pro Bowl, and has 1,200 yards rushing, and then we want to bump him off the list.
He doesn't. If he was that good, Timo, would he not be on the team right now?
I can't argue with this point. I guess he doesn't have a job right now, but I guess when we come back to this,
he can file for unemployment, Timo.
I don't think he would qualify, but
I'll let you have your moment here. Now, see the whole not having a job. I underestimated, I guess, how important that was. But in 3 weeks, when he has a job, we're coming back to this argument.
Yeah. Talent is top 10 without a doubt. It's just don't know where he's going. There's inconsistencies with his health.
Not last year.
Okay, that was 1 year.
But we're going off of
I think he almost missed 6 games last year. It was every week he was I don't know if he's going to play.
Almost missed 6. What? I almost was a millionaire every day. Almost.
But you weren't, bro. You really.
I almost played in the NFL. I almost played 6 games. Who knows?
Anyway,
it almost could be a lot of things.
Dakota, is this what you deal with all the time? Is this what you do all the time?
This is why we have to bring guests on, so I'm not just.
I see why. Yeah. I see why.
Your logic is idiotic. Go ahead with your next.
So okay, my number 10, somebody that Tim actually mentioned. He finished 9th in the league in rushing in his first year as a starter, and he was so good that the team he plays for decided to trade away their current starter and name James Robinson. So, my number 10, surprise for me on a guy off his first year, Travis Etienne, number 10 here.
Wow.
I just throw out the point that he missed all of last season. So between the 2 years he's been in the NFL, he missed the entire year. So that's 16 out of 32 games that he missed. We're going to ignore that. Listen, I like Etienne, but I can't help but poke holes in your logic when it doesn't make sense. I'm stunned you have him in the list, but I like him a lot, so I'll let you continue. But I just wanted to throw that little fun fact out of there.
Well, he was a rookie, and he was injured and missed a whole year. He's not a player that's a veteran that's missed consecutive 5 seasons. He hasn't. It took till his 6th year in the NFL for him to play a full season, and you're going to tell me he's not injury prone?
Listen, I just know that he played all his games this year, so
Okay,
but go on, keep telling me. Tell me some more.
No, okay, so yeah, Etienne. I actually think you made a great point. I hate to admit it, but his trajectory right now is crazy. He's got his quarterback from college. He's on an offensive friendly, system with a good head coach, and to have over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, the explosiveness he has, and I could even see his receiving yards going up. He had 316 receiving yards last year. I could see that going up as well. I mean, you add Calvin Ridley to that stacked offense, he's going to get more opportunities, I think, to get one-on-ones and stuff. So, and I think 5.1 yards per attempt for someone at his size too. Jacksonville, like I said, is looking good, and so is ETN. I think he's going to have a really good year. I don't know if he'll jump into top 5 next year, but I think again that Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara mold, I can see him like 6 to 10 next year in that range, but moving up. So,
yeah, I agree with that.
Listen, time my wagon to his top 5. He's in for a big year.
All right,
go ahead, caveman.
Did we get your 10?
Give us,
Tim? Who was it? Oh, Kamara. So yeah, we'll go to.
Give us your worst single digit.
Go to number 9.
Oh, Jesus.
So this guy was almost on my bold and brash list, but I didn't put him there. I moved him into my top 10, but only out of respect. I got Derrick Henry.
Oh my God.
So
here we go. Let me hear this.
Last year I did call for
number
his downfall.
9. Oh my
I did call
God.
for his downfall. So okay,
what downfall?
He made me eat it. He made me eat crow. Okay, he had a great season, 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns.
Downfall, 1,500 yards.
He had a great season.
Wait, hold on. You're rewarding him for proving you wrong by putting him at number 9.
Can the caveman talk, or is the?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you.
This is too much.
In my defense, I did say he had one more good year left. I didn't think it'd be that good, but I did say he had one more good year left last year.
Okay, yeah.
He had 350 carries, second most of his career.
Mm-hmm.
He's already had a significant foot injury. He's going to be 29 coming into the season.
Mm-hmm.
They're running him into the ground, and the Titans are rumored trying to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
I just look, man. I'd be surprised if he averaged more than 4 yards a carry this season. I know I probably sound
isn't that what you said last year? And then
I think he did, yeah.
It's very similar to what you said. Did you just copy and paste what you said last year and just roll with it again, hoping eventually, if I keep saying this over and over again, eventually
when he retires,
at some point,
when he's 40 years old, and you know,
if I just say it enough, at some point I will be right. So
listen,
you're
respect
not wrong.
for your just determination and your stubbornness.
Look, the only other point I'll make is running backs are the shortest-lived careers in the NFL. Granted, Derrick Henry might be from a different planet. There's no way he can keep this up. He had 350 carries last year. There's going to be a decline. I don't know what it's going to be.
Literally copy and paste from last year. Did you just copy and paste? We heard this whole thing last year.
I said he had one more good year.
Got his notes mixed up. He's looking at the wrong notes.
Okay.
Fuck. No.
Here comes Najee Harris at number 8.
I'm just saying, I think he's headed for the cliff, man. Whether that comes this year, I'm not so confident as I was last year, but I put him in my top 10. I gave him some respect.
What cliff? The cliff some more where he probably could climb that barehanded? Like, come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I'll let that one slide for a little bit because Dalvin Cook's coming up shortly. I have Derrick Henry much further on, so I don't want to ruin it now. This is just idiotic at number 9.
Number 9. That's comedy.
I think the Dalvin Cook argument should take a hit because his logic is proving to be worse and worse.
I partially agree with him on the Dalvin Cook, but yeah, the Derrick Henry, he lost me.
You're really going to tie your boat to him? Well, that's a tough one.
I think I have to split the boat in half and stand in between, But
well, either or. Let's get. I guess we'll go right back into my number 9. So my number 9, running back that went for over 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a guy who was relied upon a lot on his offense. He left something to be desired in the touchdown department. Only had 2 on the ground, but 5 receiving. His average was nice though, 5.3 average, very impressive in a year when his offense as a whole stepped back. Big pressures on him next year. He's going to have a young quarterback to play with and an MVP that just left. So I'm going with Aaron Jones here at number 9.
Okay.
Sturdy, steady. I think he's just he's this solid top 10 running back. You know what you're going to get. Although that 5.3 yards per carry average is pretty nice. That's an impressive mark that you can't ignore. But it was only, he only takes 213 carries. You're destroying and crapping all over Derrick Henry for doing 350. That's even more impressive. Aaron Jones went for over 1,000 with 213, but imagine throwing another 140 or whatever. That 5.3 average, I guarantee, wouldn't be holding up with 350 carries that Derrick Henry gets.
Yep.
But still a very solid top 10 player. He adds a little bit in the receiving dimension too. 2-way player. He's going to have to step up big. Jordan Love's going to need him, but I'm confident he can keep going forward as a top 10 guy. So Aaron Jones at number 9.
Yeah, solid argument. He probably should have been in my honorable mentions, to be honest.
Do you not have him in your list?
This list is insane.
Who do you have? Like, who do you have in this list?
Oh my god.
Najee
Harris is on this list. He's got to be.
Oh boy, you're running out of running backs.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
All right. Okay, well, my number 9 sounds like he was on neither of your lists, and honestly, I didn't want to put him on my list, but like one of his teammates that I also didn't want to put on my list, I kind of have to acknowledge the skill set, the talent that is there. This guy had almost 1,400 yards from scrimmage last year. He has a career average of 5.1 yards per attempt in 4 seasons. And now he is the number 1 guy. Zeke Elliott is gone. So Tony Pollard is my number 9 running back. Hate to admit it, but he's a damn good running back. Had over 1,000 yards this year, 9 tutties. And he's a surprisingly good receiving back too. He can block.
He is.
I mean, he's a really good all around back, and I think he deserves that top 10 or maybe 11 if that's where he fits in your honorable mentions. But we'll see how he does in a full. Like I'll give him that. Like we haven't seen him a full bell cow for a whole 17 games, so we'll see. But yeah, I think he's still young. He's going to his 5th year, so just made the Pro Bowl last year. We'll see where he goes.
I like it. I have no issue. Yeah. I had him in I think I had him 12, right in that 12 to 8 region. I'm fine with. He needs to do it without Zeke.
The full season was
all the attention's going to be on him.
Exactly.
But I gave him the nod, so.
I think he'll be a good player, but I need to see him do this every week where he's the guy. There is no confusion. Zeke's not there to take distraction away.
Right.
And we'll see what happens.
I think it's the 5.1 career yard per carry that really helped me elevate him into that top 10 because that's impressive. Like
that's
whether you have 10 carries or 30 carries a game, like to maintain.
He was behind Zeke though, who would do a lot of the bruising to the defense.
But, that's off the line football.
Probably, but the Cowboys' worst offensive line season because they had so many injuries and so many changes. He still had his best season over 1,000 yards. So we'll see. But
yeah, I'm excited. We'll see if he can handle the.
I'm not excited, but we'll see.
Right, excited is maybe the incorrect term.
So I'm literally sitting on the edge of my seat to see how this just buffoon list ends up. So please go ahead. I'm just shocked.
Who's number 8?
So I hate that I put him this low, and I love him as a player, but I have Jonathan Taylor at 8. Only because I'm not sure. We know the talent, dude, and I love him as a running back. That ankle injury lasted like the entire season last year. I don't know what was up with that, whether he just could not heal from it, but he was not the same, clearly. He had surgery in the offseason. I think he'll recover. He could easily be number 1. If he stays healthy, he could easily be number 1. So I only have him this low because of how disappointing it was. I had him in fantasy, okay? I expected number 1 numbers, and he gave me I forget where he ended up, 15 or something. Good. Like I said, he has the talent to be the best running back in the league. We'll see how he recovers from that ankle injury, and he had the surgery in the offseason. He's still young, but I worry about running backs. If they start getting injured, it usually compiles. So we'll see. But he's my number 8.
I'm just curious how a guy has the worst year of his career and somehow ranks above a guy who just went for 1,500 yards.
Man, I called for his downfall last year, Timo. I got to stick to my guns.
Stick to it. All right, fair enough.
He put names on a dartboard, and he put a blindfold. And he's like, "Okay, you're number 10. You're number 9."
I mean, Jonathan Taylor's higher on my list, but I guess him at 8 is better to stomach than Derrick Henry at 9.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll move my number 8. My number 8 is someone we've actually talked about quite a bit, so I don't have to get too much into it. But yeah, I mean, I went with John Cook, who apparently the only negative he has is he's unemployed, which I guess underestimated how important that was going to be. Oh yeah, besides the fact that he played every game this year. So unlike you, Dakota, I like to reward them when they, go against my concerns. So when you're an injury-prone player, plays every single game and goes for 1,200 yards with 8 rushing touchdowns and 2 more through the air, something I don't want to ignore. So
yeah, he's so good that no other team wants him, man. Like if you really look at
he'll
that,
be fine.
Like if you look at that,
I am more confident in him playing week 1 for a team than I am Saquon Barkley playing week 1 for the Giants. He is not missing any games. He will be on our team. How many times do we see good players like this who get released late, who take the time? They know they're going to get a contract. They're in no rush. DeAndre Hopkins is doing the same exact thing now. And I believe, Dakota, you had DeAndre Hopkins on your top 10 wide receivers, and not one mention about him being unemployed was ever made.
Well, D-Hop. At the end of the day,
no.
D-Hop is. Go ahead, Dakota.
D-Hop is way higher up the echelon than Dalvin Cook.
If you're going by last year, it wasn't what Dalvin Cook did, but hey, whatever we go with.
So you said Tony Pollard doesn't deserve to be top 10 because you have a worry about him not playing he hasn't played a full season by himself. But Dalvin Cook played one season fully healthy, and you're not worried about that? I don't see.
Well, because I'm not worried about like the availability of Tony Pollard. I'm worried about the performance. Losing Zeke, I mean, do not get this confused. Tony Pollard was a number 2 running back his entire career up until last year. Zeke was the number 1 guy. Tony Pollard got the spoils of Zeke just dominating all game. And then when you're crowding the box for Zeke, you have this guy that runs out of the backfield, catches the ball, or takes.
That was not the case last year.
You know what?
Not last year. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, not last year.
I think the first year we did these episodes, I think Nick, who's been on a bunch, I think he did running backs, and he had Dalvin Cook pretty low because of the injury concerns, and he said the best ability to have as an athlete is availability. And Dalvin Cook is finally shown one season.
Dalvin Cook just played every single game last season. I mean, I don't know. What do you want him to do? Like, how many more years does he have to play every single game until you start changing your mind? But he was available this year.
And I'll put you back in the top 10 if you put up the same numbers and you play a full season.
I mean, listen, he's not playing every game, sure, but it's not like his performance dropped off. This was his 4th year in a row with over 1,000 yards. The one year he put up like nearly 1,600 yards rushing in 14 games. I don't know.
That was 3 years ago, Timo.
Miles Sanders just had like 1,300 yards. He's not in your top 10. When did yards become so important?
Miles Sanders isn't in my top 10 because the guy can't hold on to the ball, and he was playing in a system that he was not the lead dog. Just like the Tony Pollard argument, Dalvin Cook is the lead dog, and
so he wasn't the lead dog. He had 1,300 rushing yards.
No.
Okay. So we're just not making any sense. All right. Are you done?
So Dalvin Cook's a top 10 running back. Whether you want to argue about his employment status, sure. But go ahead.
Yeah, he's so good that no otother team wants to put him on the roster. That's
He'll be on a roster, but
he will obviously be on a roster.
Yeah, when somebody gets hurt.
Is he in a rush? Does the NFL season start tomorrow? I must have got my calendar mixed up.
All right. My number 8, as Tim will continue the trend of giving some measurements here. Coming in at 5'10", 200 pounds soaking wet, Mr. Austin Eckler from the LA Chargers. I think this guy, along with my number 7, are probably the most disrespected running backs in the NFL. But I mean, he's got some contract concerns. This might be his last year as a Charger, it seems like. But he's done nothing but good things for him. I mean, last year just under 1,000 yards, but again, he had 1,600 yards from scrimmage in total. So, I mean, you're getting 700 receiving yards and 900 rushing yards. I'd take that all day. Had 13 touchdowns on the ground and 5 through the air. So again, touchdown machine like he was at 18 last year, and then he had 20 the year before. So great for fantasy. But yeah, I think just a really, really good. I wouldn't have a problem with him like 6 or 7. I think he's a really good back, quality player for the Chargers. And my only concern maybe now is that he's getting a little older. I think he's close to 30 now.
28.
But we know how running back careers go, so we'll see. But he's a great player, so give him his flowers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about him later. Yeah.
Okay. Tim, did you have him yet or no?
No, I actually, if you want to jump into it, I actually have him at number 7, my next spot. I went with Eckler. He's dual threat. You hit a lot of it. He's a dual threat guy. I mean, they force feed him the ball, especially in the receiving game.
I mean, you talk about Henry getting the ball all the time. This is Derek. I mean, Eckler has it 24/7.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what he does in the receiving game, I think that's the most impressive. I think he came into the league as like this receiving threat and kind of grew into a rushing threat almost. But his game's really come around. They've really like balanced out a good bit. I'm interested to see if he leaves the Chargers how it goes because he's in a perfect offense. Like there's not going to be many teams that are just going to force feed him the ball like that. But he's in a good spot. I mean, like he's had more targets than like guys like Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, like T Higgins, like these stud wide receivers. It's just they just give him the ball in every possible way. But yeah, I went with Austin Eckler, dual threat, good, solid running back all around.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to talk about him later. I have him higher ranked than you guys do. But if you're ready for my number 7.
There we go.
Go for it.
I got my boy Nahi. And
are you kidding me?
I think.
Wait, hold on. Are you honestly going to try to tell me that Najee Harris is better than Derrick Henry?
This is the 2025
and Dalvin Cook. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why?
These are projections for next season, Timo.
The dude's a bum.
The dude's a bum.
Timo, I don't know how much of that English tea you've been drinking.
He did not make my top 10 either. The dude, like,
well, that's why your running backs expert is here to correct you guys. That's why
his career average is 3.9. He had 3.8 this year, 3.9 last year. So if they're not just giving the ball 100 times every week, he doesn't do anything.
You guys have always talked about how terrible Pittsburgh's O-line has been. Nahi's entire career. They used to have one of the best. It became literally the worst in the league for the past couple seasons. So, if you'll give me a chance to speak, you fucking Neanderthal, I have some points.
Getting aggressive in here.
Yeah, this is a horrific choice.
Go for it, Flurry. Give us this. Let's hear the prayer.
He got hurt during the preseason last year. It took him about half the season to get healthy, and once he did, he looked pretty solid. The team was terrible last year. The Pittsburgh Steelers started the season like 2-7, I think. Credit to Coach Tomlin for somehow still not having a losing season despite that start.
He is the man.
I don't know how he does it. They have a whole new offensive line this year. They got that guy Isaac Samalu, and I got my computer going off.
Isaac
From the Eagles.
Great.
Yeah, so he's a solid guard, and they got Broderick Jones in the draft. I think their offensive line is going to be revamped this year with that new talent coming in. I think the Steelers as a whole are going to take off. Kenny Pickett combined with George Pickens coming into his second year, I think they're going to open up the running game for the Steelers. And Deontay Johnson had a terrible season last year, but I think he's primed to have a better season this year coming up too. I think Nahi is going to be a surprise, dude. And I hope none of you guys draft him in fantasy so I can get him real cheap. He's primed for a great season. The only question I have is Jalen Warren, his backup, who is actually a really solid back as well, who has a way better yards per carry average, Timo, than Nahi does.
Everyone does. Everyone has a much better yards per carry average.
What's his yards per carry average?
That would be a 3.9. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 3.8. 3.9 was his rookie season. So he's yet to crack 4 yards per carry. And as a true diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, when your argument is mostly based around Isaac Seumalo being an addition, I know you're talking out your ass.
Broderick Jones.
Isaac's great and all. Isaac's great and all, but he is not this game changer you think he's going to be.
I think he's a really solid guard. He was one of the best guards in the league last year.
I think you're insane.
I don't think so.
I think Derrick Henry, the broken foot, will outrush Najee Harris without it.
I think the revamped offensive line combined with the offensive threats and George Pickens, Kenny Pickett, I think is going to take a big step forward. Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth, I think are going to open up the running game for Pittsburgh. I think he's going to have a great season. I really do.
I think you're being well over optimistic for him, which is fine. Sure, go ahead.
I'm biased.
But to say he's better than guys like Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry is insane.
These are projections, Timo, and Jonathan Taylor is injured, and Derrick Henry is going off that cliff. So obviously,
yeah, this cliff. We haven't seen that cliff yet.
Hey, Tim, did you know that you said what 3.7 average for Harris?
3.8.
3.8. The lowest Derrick Henry's average has been, and since he got into the league in 2016, is a 4.2.
Yeah, that includes his broken foot year.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're insane. Derrick Henry played behind, I think, the worst offensive line in football.
Oh,
You didn't seem to
by far.
mention that at all in his argument, but suddenly the Steelers' offensive line is so bad. That's the reason Najee Harris sucks.
The whole team was terrible. Big Ben was gone. What do you want from him, man?
Big Ben was gone. He's been gone.
He's been gone. Yeah, Derrick Henry ran for 1,500 yards on a terrible offense.
I mean,
he got 50 carries a game, bro.
I've never heard somebody so optimistic about Kyle Pickett before, but
hey, listen, blind faith. Once you put James Conner in any kind of sort of mention in this list, you knew you were in trouble.
I think James Conner has definitely exceeded my expectations after he left the Steelers, but
totally.
I'm sure it's because you didn't have any expectations from him.
That's also true. Anyways, my number 7.
Najee Harris, you're insane. Go ahead. Bring some stability to this.
So yeah, some stability. Timo, you mentioned this guy a pick or two ago, and our Derrick Henry resident hater somehow didn't have him on his list. But I have Aaron Jones here at number 7. I would argue is the most underrated running back in the league. I mean, Tim, you made some great points about how consistent he's been over the years, but I mean, even last year, 1,500 yards from scrimmage. He had 7 total touchdowns, career 5.1 yard per carry average. I just talked about that with Pollard. He's also another do-it-all guy. 400 yards receiving, over 1,000 rushing. I have no complaints about Aaron Jones. He'll get in there and block. I mean, he does all this. He has 1,500 yards while sharing time with not Corey Dillon, AJ Dillon. So it's like, I don't know. I'm impressed by that. 5.3 yard per carry this year. We'll see how he does with Jordan Love, but he was, a nice safety blanket for Aaron Rodgers. So, I think he's probably one of the most disrespected running backs. Just doesn't get mentioned enough in the league. But I got Aaron Jones at number 7.
I'd agree with that. To be fair, you've always been an Aaron Jones guy. You've enlightened me at some point.
He is on my fantasy team, so
there you go. He's the only one without a criminal record.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So please, let's continue this comedy show. Who's at number 6 on Fluri's list?
I don't know if this one's as controversial as my other ones that I've listed off, but I have Saquon at 6. He maybe should have been higher, but he looked healthy last season. He looked healthy, and I was happy to see him back because, one of my favorite prospects ever coming out of college. I'm a Penn State guy, and the fact that he, you watch videos of him squatting 600 pounds, it's like, I can't wait to watch this guy play. I was happy to see him back. He had 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. I think the Giants as a whole are on the upswing. Brian Dabble seems to be a good head coach. I like the way they're heading. I think as long as the Giants keep, moving forwards in an upward direction, I think Saquon's going to have another great year. And that's besides the point. And this is a point that I think not a lot of people mention, bro. And it's really important when you talk about Saquon. His quads are the size of Montana. I mean, imagine trying to tackle that guy. So
good analysis there.
I don't normally visualize other men's quads in my head, or
you should start doing it more.
Maybe I need to incorporate that into my daily
missing out. Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Alrighty, so my number 6, I gotta say, I mean, I don't know, with both your lists are just a little loose. Well, Dakota, yours is actually okay for the general most part. I have no idea what rationale you used to rank your list, but this was the hardest guy on my list to rank. Okay. I don't know if he was with you guys, but this was by far the hardest one. I didn't know where he should go. Talking about last year and last year only, he had the best year, I think, out of anyone. He came out of almost nowhere, though, to have this year. He did not show this promise. He wasn't awful, but he never showed this kind of promise. He had, 340 carries. That was 70 more than any other season he had in his entire career. But he ended with 1,653 yards. He played every game. He was money. He was really good. He was a first-team All-Pro. He's probably the best running back last year. He had 12 touchdowns, which, again, I don't think anyone saw coming. So he was his offense. I'm going with Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
Considering he was the best running back last year, is weird to put him at number 6. But, before this, he showed none of this. He didn't show anything like this. I'll give him credit. Josh McDaniels came in, new system. We'll see what happens. But they also lost Carr. Jimmy G's hurt a lot. I think that's going to affect it. He's not going to surprise anyone. Everyone is going to be ready for him. I'm confident that he can be still a solid player. I don't know if he's going to put up these numbers again, but I don't think he's going to completely fall apart. But yeah, I have him at number 6 just because the top 5. I've seen these guys have seasons like he just had, and I'm more confident in them doing it again going forward.
I got no arguments with that.
Yeah, I mean,
curious to see where you guys have him, because he was the toughest one. It felt weird putting him at 6, but where else are you going to put him with these other names?
I agree, and I think Dakota, if I'm not mistaken, has always been the one that would actually include him in the top 10, and I could never quite put him there. I could be wrong.
Let's see. 2021, I had him at number 9, and then 2022, I had him at 10. So yes.
Was that the year that you had him over Jonathan Taylor when you didn't rank Jonathan Taylor?
2021, I didn't have Taylor.
Okay, well, listen. 2 years later, Josh Jacobs over Jonathan Taylor. Still kind of a stretch, but you're just 2 years ahead of time. That's
Tim, I gotta give you credit. You are great at doing previews right there. So let me get into my number 6. Mr. Jonathan Taylor, the man in question himself.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think, I kind of like what Fluri was saying. I'm just concerned about, or maybe it was you, Tim. I forget who said it. Concerned about the health going forward. Like, he played 11 games, but really never looked like himself at any point.
Not at all, dude.
And you would have thought, like, oh, maybe, at some point, like, he'll get back and, look like that quick self he was, a powerful running back he is, a shifty guy he was. He just never came back. Now, granted, maybe he needed a full year of recovery, but I mean, his rookie year and only 15 games played, he had 1,400 yards from scrimmage. Then he had that crazy 2021 season where he had over 2,000 yards from scrimmage, 20 touchdowns. I don't think we're going to get that guy again, but if we can get close to those rookie numbers, that definitely would keep him in the top 5, I would think. But last year, I mean, just over 1,000 scrimmage yards. He had 800 rushing in 11 games, which 4.5 average. That's not bad at all. But his touchdowns came down all the way down to 4. So definitely a concern, but we'll see. We'll see, new coach there, new quarterback, hopefully a healthy offensive line for him. Hopefully he's healthy. And I mean, the talent's there for sure. I was late on Jonathan Taylor train. Now I'm keeping the brakes kind of pumped, seeing what's going to happen.
Just a little late. Bro.
Just a little late. But definitely a top 10 running back for sure.
Yeah.
That is all.
That is all.
Crack the top 5 with this list now, which I'm dying to see because you've already mentioned 3 of my top 5, so I'm curious to see what you have in place of those 2.
I got a solid top 5. I'll tell you that right now. Number 5, it's not going to be too controversial. Josh Jacobs, bro. I think he deserves to be in the top 5.
I also have Josh Jacobs at number 5.
You know what, Dakota?
A little tandem action.
I always liked you, Dakota.
There we go.
He had a great season, man. Like, way better than I thought he was, dude. And for the first time, he averaged 4.9 a carry, almost 5 a carry. That was his best yards per carry of his career. I've never given him the respect he deserves, and maybe that was a mistake on my part. Like I said, I never had him in my top 10. Dakota, you did. I never saw him as this type of back, but he might have been the best running back in the league last year. 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns. I mean, maybe Devontae was a big part of opening up the running lanes for the Raiders. That could have played a part.
Maybe,
yeah.
My question mark is, will that continue with Jimmy G behind center? I think Devontae's good enough on his own to draw that attention, but we'll see. Josh Jacobs, I don't think he gets enough credit, man. I think top 5, he probably should have been higher, but it's difficult. Like Timo said, it's hard to put him high because you don't see him like that. But
yeah, my 5 and my 4 I chose based on pure talent, I would say. But I mean, Josh Jacobs, I was just gloating about Taylor's year he had in 2021 where he had over 2,000 scrimmage yards. Jacobs had over 2,000 scrimmage yards this past season, 12 tutties, a 4.9 yards per carry last year. Like, he's been consistently, honestly, his whole career, he's over 1,000 scrimmage yards every year. 1,300 is rookie, 1,300, then 1,200, then now 2,000. So
yeah,
he's consistent. And on a Raiders team that's fluctuates between bad and worse. I think also 97.2 yards per game. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
crazy.
it's nasty.
Yeah.
His numbers truly this year were just insane.
Nice.
I confidently would say he was the best running back in football, and
last year
he just did it all. And honestly, I mean, there's nothing I hold back from him from last year, and even before that, he was solid. I think he was borderline top 10 guy all the other years. This year, he just exploded out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is my top 4 or my top 5, I'm sorry, that I have in front of him. I've seen these incredible years that similar to what he put up, but I just have more confidence they could do it again than he could. So my number 5 is a guy who also had a big year, not a Josh Jacobs year, but guy who came in a big year, coming off a little bit of an injury track, and someone that we needed to see have another big year because I think the doubt was creeping in. But I went with Saquon Barkley here at number 5. And again, he's creeping in over a guy like Josh Jacobs, mostly because I just think Saquon Barkley could be great again next year, where I'd have more doubts about Josh Jacobs. Barkley had an incredible rookie year, probably the best year of his career. He gives you a little more in the receiving game. I mean, he still went for 300 or 1,300 yards and about 10 touchdowns on the ground. Nothing to sneeze at. When the guy's healthy, he's going to ball. Played 16 games. Gave you a little of the receiving game, 57 receptions, 338 through the air, which I think he could even do more throughout this stable offense. But listen, Jacobs flourished in a new offensive system, but so did Barkley. So I just think the pieces are there for Barkley to keep getting better. So I've got Barkley just a little bit higher, but those two were literally splitting hairs. I was tough between those two.
Yeah.
No, so we got a number 4.
So my list is definitely different than your guys, and I'm kind of projecting based on my own personal opinions here. But number 4, I got Ramondre Stevenson, man, and I think he.
Oh my God!
Really?
I think he's
bro.
Really? I thought we were safe.
I thought we were safe.
Are you kidding me?
You're never safe.
I almost Ramondre Stevenson is the 4th best running back in the league. Did you say that out loud before you wrote that down, or
okay? Wait. So maybe I need some clarification. Are we doing top 10 for the upcoming season or top 10 from last year? Because I thought this was for the upcoming season.
For upcoming season, yes.
This is top 10 Ramondre right now. You're insane.
Yeah.
You're completely insane.
Ramondre.
Okay, go ahead. I'll bite my tongue. I'll let you go ahead.
Bro, Ramondre is super talented, and now that Damian Harris is gone,
when's the last time we had a Patriot running back that, besides like Corey Dillon, that was going to be a top 10 running back, though? They rotate those guys.
Corey Dillon
to the ground.
I don't think Belichick has had this kind of talent before, man. Ramondre Stevenson, it's 6 foot, 230 pounds, moves as elegantly as I've ever seen a big running back move, man. If you watch this guy play football, dude, he's a talent. He can catch, too. He's got great hands. I think he's going to have a huge season, bro. And if you guys don't think so, then please let me draft him in fantasy. I'll take him off your hands. I think he's headed for a big year, top 5 year, man. Like I said, with Damian Harris gone, Damian Harris is eating up most of the carries. With him gone, Ramondre is going to get that workload. He could be the bell cow for this team. I think your guys are going to be surprised.
I think Ramondre Stevenson's a good player. I think he had a good year last year. I think he get better. Yeah, but he's not the 4th best running back in football right now. You're insane.
I think he's going to be. Top 5 this year.
Okay, even on the projection, let's go with your projection here. What makes you think the Patriots are going to be this incredible offense?
I never said they would.
I mean, you would expect it if he's going to be a top 5 running back.
You don't need to have a
guy who just went over 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns.
I think he's going to have a better year than Josh Jacobs for sure.
Timo, you ready for some stats here? We got LeGarrette Blount, 2016, over 1,000 rushing yards, 18 tutties. Actually, a pretty impressive year.
That's a solid year.
Dion Lewis, 900 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. Sony Michel, 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. Damian Harris 2 years ago, 900 yards, 15 touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson this past year, just over 1,000, 5 touchdowns. They are all the same. These stats are all the same. They just plug and play running backs. He looked really good. I thought Damian Harris was going to be the next big thing for the Patriots, and he's not even on the team anymore. So I think Stevenson's potential is higher than these guys. Maybe not Sony Michel. I thought Michel was going to be really good, but I don't know.
Yeah, not the 4th best running back.
That's not the Patriot way to have a franchise running back anymore. So we'll see. I considered him
I
in my
disagree.
honorable mentions, but he just didn't make the cut yet.
I think he's gonna be top 5, man.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I mean, a point of this is projection, sure, but this is who's the 4th best running back right now going into next season. It is not Ramondre Stevenson.
I mean, he's pretty bold, assuming Henry's going to drop off all the way to 9, and then Stevenson's going to drop all the way to jump all the way to 4. That's I'm going to tell me what you're sipping.
I mean, even if Ramondre Stevenson had the best season next year as a running back, like Josh Jacobs just did, he didn't even make your top 5. So, like, Stevenson would have to do what, 2,000 yards to actually back this up?
Stevenson is a great pass catcher. They're going to use him in that receiving back role. Last year,
Harris.
What? Damian Harris is not as good of a receiving back as Ramondre.
I don't know.
Not at all.
I don't know.
Ramondre's got better hands. And with them splitting last year, Ramondre had 1,000 yards at 5 a carry, and he had 6 touchdowns splitting work. I think he's going to have a big season.
Dakota, I think we just have to blame ourselves here. This is our fault for not. This is what we bring on for guests. This is our fault.
We got to do some screenings next time.
You got to vet your guests first.
Yeah. Holy, this is brutal.
All right.
I mean,
what do we have?
I don't know.
4?
I don't know if Derrick Henry at 9 is worse than Ramondre Stevens at 4, but it's close. It's very, very close.
All right.
I don't even know where I'm at anymore. Yeah, my number 4. Who do I have yet? All right, so my number 4. I still can't even get over Ramondre Stevenson, and he said it with a straight face.
Damian Harris is gone. He is the bell cow now. What do you get about that?
I just closed the tab and I got to reopen it again.
Yeah. All right. So my number 4, guy who had a down year. You both have touched on it already because he's already appeared in your list, but he was arguably the best running back in football. I think he was the best running back in football last year. His team was horrendous. His team fell apart. They were one of the worst teams in football last year. This wasn't the Steelers offense. This wasn't the Titans offense, the Patriots offense, who just didn't play well or had some talent, blah, blah. They were one of the worst teams in football last year, and they were disgusting. Yeah, their quarterback play was terrible. Their offensive line completely fell off a cliff. They didn't get anything out of their passing game. He was hurt. Don't get me wrong. It was a nagging ankle injury. He didn't tear his ACL. He didn't tear his Achilles or anything like that. It was a nagging ankle injury that he should have probably just sat out for. But, he played throughout the season. It cost him the season. He'll come out much better next year. So I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor at number 4. Because you know what?
Fairly optimistic.
Going into next year, yeah, but you know what? Being optimistic on Jonathan Taylor is fine. Being optimistic for Ramondre Stevenson at number 4 is insane.
It's not that crazy. Okay, go ahead, Timo.
Do you remember? Timo, do you remember Ben Jarvis Green Ellis? 229 attempts, 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson, 210 attempts, 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. This is what I'm saying. Nothing's going to change in New England.
Watch Ramondre play football, bro.
Damian Harris had 200 attempts 2 years ago. Same stats. There's no. We'll see.
Now there's no Damian. Ramondre was splitting work with him all those years, bro.
Damian was splitting with the other running backs. I mean,
going back to Jonathan Taylor here. Jonathan Taylor, you know what? He put up a pretty solid, 4.5 yard per carry is pretty solid. And that's what he did last year on a very down year on a terrible team. That wasn't as good as his 5.5 the year before, or the 5 his rookie year. But listen, I'm not going to just ignore him suddenly because he had a down year, which actually wasn't that terrible. He had 861 yards, 4.5 on one of the worst teams in football. He'll be fine. He's going to bounce back, and he's going to be fine. So he's still a guy I could see in the top 5 going in next year.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I had him at 6, so I don't really have too many disagreements with that. My number 4, I'll go off Fluri's kind words here. Comes in at 6 foot, 232 pounds of pure thigh, Mr. Saquon Barkley, Saquads. I think kind of how I view Saquon in the same vein as Tim is viewing Jonathan Taylor, that I think they're going to rebound and continue to be healthy, continue to play really well, because Saquon's numbers when he's fully healthy are insane. Like his rookie year, over 2,000 yards of scrimmage. The year after that, he played only 13 games, had 1,400 yards from scrimmage. The 2 years that he was hobbled most of the time, obviously didn't do well, but came back last year, 16 games, over 1,600 yards from scrimmage, 10 tutties. 4.4 yards per carry is not great. I think also he was trying to get back in the groove because his rookie year was 5.0. So Saquon, I hate to have two NFC East rivals on this on the top 10 list, but I think Saquon, when he was drafted, I think he got a lot of shit because the Giants need a lot more help and they took a running back so high. But I think talent-wise that he deserved that spot, and I think talent-wise he'll continue to be a top 5 running back as long as he's healthy. And that's a big if, obviously. But he showed that he could stay healthy for 16 games last year. So we'll see. But I got him at 4.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, top 3. Let's hear it.
Top 3. And I'm surprised you guys had this guy so low. But I got Austin Eckler at 3. He does so much for that offense. Yeah.
I was just shocked, but okay, hold on, wait. Austin Eckler is the same exact age as Derrick Henry. Why does his age?
No, he's a year younger. He's a year younger, and he gets he doesn't get run. He's a year younger.
He gets just as between his receiving targets.
No,
he gets just as many touches.
Last year he had 311 touches, which is way less than Derrick Henry's 350 carries alone.
I mean, it's not way less.
But, I mean,
40. That's like 2 games. That's 40 carries less. Anyway, Austin Eckler.
I mean, he did play a playoff game, didn't he? So that's your 40 touches right there. Derrick Henry didn't have to play in the playoffs.
These are all regular season stats only.
Okay,
Anywho,
continue.
He had 107 receptions, bro, with 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, he puts up wide receiver 2, 3 numbers on top of being one of the best running backs in the league.
Yeah.
The guy had 18 touchdowns last year, bro. He had 1,600 total yards. The guy is a stud. If you take Christian McCaffrey out of the equation, he's the best dual threat running back in the league. He never quite got the credit he deserved. I think last year he proved he's a stud, man. I think he deserves to be number 3. I think he's poised for another big season this year. I think the Chargers need him, and he knows that he brings that much value to the offense, which is why there was some contract disputes before he eventually resigned. I think he's going to be a stud this year.
Fair enough. I mean, sure, he had a nice year. He didn't have nearly as much scrimmage yards as Derrick Henry did, but what does that matter? But we digress.
Go into your number 3,
list
Tim.
There's no like theme to this list. I have no idea where it goes. We go right, we go left. There's no like common theme. Like I'd been like, all right, I'm only putting people that are under 25, or I'm only putting guys that have performed before, or all young guys. This list is all over the place.
And Stevenson 4 is crazy.
Insane.
You're watching a genius at work here. I hope you guys are appreciating the knowledge.
Tim says the same thing, and I don't believe it. Word that comes out of his mouth. So,
listen, there's a thin line between genius and insanity, and I think Fluri's tripped over that line. To be honest with you. All right, I'm gonna go with a guy who actually was our number 1 before. I want to say 2 years ago. I think he was the unanimous number 1. He's a guy who's gaining his traction. He's coming back into it. He finished the year strong, but listen, he's top 3 because I know the talent's there. It's just the availability. The last 2 years in 2020, 2021, it wasn't there. He was hurt. He missed a whole bunch of games. He got traded this year, and he put up some nice numbers once he got traded. Showed his dual threat ability. He had 746 rushing yards and 464 receiving yards, and that was in 11 games with the Niners. But even when we was with the Panthers in the beginning of the season, he was doing pretty solid. I want to see it a little bit more. I mean, listen, if you're a running back, you get traded to the Niners. I don't think there's a better team to get traded to. So my expectations for him would be a little bit higher. And mostly, I need to see him do it on a consistent basis before I start jumping into the well. But I've seen him do it. He showed me glimpses of it again. If he can stay healthy and with the Niners, with that offense, with the coaching staff, he's going to put up some insane numbers like he was in his prime. So I'm going with Christian McCaffrey here, the best dual threat running back in the game, and a guy who I think, for a football fan standpoint, I hope is healthy and ready to go.
I agree with that. I don't have him at 3. I instead have a guy that Fluri disrespected. I have Derrick Henry, King Henry here at number 3. I don't think he is the number 1 running back anymore, but he is definitely still top 3 without a doubt. I mean, since 2018, he hasn't had less than 1,000 yards over scrimmage. in 2021, he played in 8 fucking games and had 117.1 yards per game.
Yeah, that's pretty.
117.1 yards per game. And you can put him
That
at
was
number 9.
that was the beginning of the cliff that season right there.
Oh yeah, definitely the
What
cliff.
cliff exactly?
Yeah. What kind of cliff is this? He's never had, as well as never being less than 1,000 yards from scrimmage since 2018. He's also never had less than 10 touchdowns since 2018. So, I mean, he doesn't even need any introduction. I am a little worried about the fact that he had a career high or second highest career high in attempts this year. But still a 4.4 average. You know, that's very normal for this list. But yeah, he's still King Henry. He's still a beast. I mean, 3 times in his career he averaged over 100 yards per game. That's practically unheard of for running, especially nowadays for running back. So King Henry will be a Hall of Fame running back someday. He'll finish as a top 10 running back in NFL history. But for right now, he is number 3 on my 2023 list.
I mean, I disagree with everything you said.
That's fine. Ramondre Stevenson didn't even sniff my list, so
yeah, I didn't even consider him. To be fair, now you know what? Stevenson would have been higher than Najee Harris, though.
I agree.
Y'all don't know what you're doing.
I would have put Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson over Ramondre Stevenson and Najee Harris.
I would have put Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put I'm trying to think who else would have also gone on there. J.K. Dobbins. I mean, the potential's there. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a better situation. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
Who's a running back for the Dolphins?
Raheem Mostert.
Jeff Wilson.
I would put him.
Jeff Wilson. Yeah, definitely would think about it for sure.
Would think about it.
Javonte Williams. That's another one for sure.
Jamal Williams now with the Saints. I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
Khalil Herbert. The Bears. I mean.
Listen, we're running out of names, so I really hope. I think you have 2 names left, and it better be these 2, or you really are going to throw us to left field. So go ahead.
Can you imagine he doesn't have one of these 2 guys on his list?
With him, I wouldn't be surprised he didn't have either.
Well, number two, I got Jeff Wilson.
Could you imagine?
Number 2, I got CMC.
Okay.
He looked great last year, and I thought he looked like he can handle the workload still. He's in the perfect system for a running back. I mean, Kyle Shanahan has one of the best zone running schemes ever. I think if he stays healthy, there's no reason he can't be the best running back in the league. Once again, the best dual threat. I don't think there's any more to say. I think he's in the right system, and I think he's got the talent. He looked back. I mean, he played the whole season. That's all I needed to see, really, for me to put him this high.
Yeah, I have another match with Fluri. I have CMC at number 2 as well here.
I knew you were smart, Dakota. I knew that beard said something about you.
Is this really is this who you want to partner with here? After everything we've seen,
I don't know.
This is what you want to tie yourself to?
But yeah, no, CMC. I mean, consistent, like just a work, like how Derrick Henry is a workhorse. Like CMC has been a workhorse for, again, the best player by far on every team he's ever been on. Now he's with the Niners. He's got a little more flexibility. I feel like he's not. Yeah. They're not as dependent on him. Now I almost put him at 1, just for the pure fact of like at the end of that season, especially when they were having like quarterback injury issues. Like he was doing it all. He was playing quarterback. He was running the ball. He was catching the ball. He was blocking. Like he's a do it all. You know,
totally.
Tony, and you gotta acknowledge the abilities that he has. But yeah, I mean, his best year was, I think, the best we've had on any of these running backs. Almost 2,400 yards from scrimmage and 19 touchdowns. 2019, granted, a couple years ago, but we know that's the potential that he has. And when healthy, he's been well over 1,000 scrimmage yards last year. 1,800 scrimmage yards, 13 tutties, and 16 games started.
Yeah,
pretty dang good.
Pretty good.
So yeah, he's a beast. He's like Tim said. I hope he stays healthy because he is electric. He is fun to watch.
All right, so I'm gonna go with. I think I think I both know who your number 1 is, and I'll roll into it. I'll start it because your number 1 is actually my number 2.
Oh.
And I'll say, you know what? I'm going to start. I'm not going to try to bash him or anything and say, because he's number 2. He's incredible. I honestly, if you look at his 5 years in the league, you look at his numbers, you would think he might already be a Hall of Famer. Like, if you look just off his numbers, he came in the league with 996 yards rushing. Then he did 1,500 his second year. He went for 1,000 as third, 1,300 the fourth, and just went for another 1,500. 1525 with 12 touchdowns. The guy is a beast. Even more impressive, his yards per average has never been below 5 yards per carry. 5.2, 5 flat, 5.6, 5.5, 5 nothing.
Yep.
He has been money. He's been incredible. The guy is a superhuman. Forget Saquon's quads or whatever you want. That guy is built.
Oh, I can't forget the quads.
He is, and you know what? I'm interested to see how it goes because every year he's been in the league, he's never had any passing game around him. He's had a great offensive line. Don't get me wrong. The Browns have always had a very strong offensive line since he's been in the league. But when it comes to passing game, there's been nothing to help him out here. So, guys, and you know what? And maybe I'm part of that, but I think he's insanely underrated too because what he does, like considering he's probably had a Hall of Fame career almost in these 5 year spread, and I only have a number 2, but I think it's deserved. And before I let you maniacs go into why you have a number 1, I'll roll in my number 1 guy and why he's number 1. So I have Nick Chubb at number 2. That's leaving King Henry still at the top of the mountain at number 1. And I'll tell you right now,
I will say real quick, I don't know if we've ever had this much parity where someone's number 1 was somebody else's number 9. That is hilarious. But go on.
If you can tell, if any of you can honestly give me an honest reason why Derrick Henry's not the best running back in football that doesn't involve his age or doesn't involve him breaking down, I'll hear it.
I mean, those are pretty
because important. That's the only. Now, is it though? Because Fluri just went on a tirade about this last year, and then look what happened. He went for 1,500 yards and led the league in carries.
Go ahead.
Behind the worst offensive line in football. Do not forget this. He went behind the worst offensive line in football. A team that just traded away their number 1 wide receiver. They relied even more on their best player on offense than before. And what did he do? He just went and took the ball 349 times, ran for over 1,500 yards. He put up 13 touchdowns. This was one of the worst offenses in football. The guy was an absolute stud. When he's gotten to the point where until he starts slowing down, until he starts breaking down, I'm not going to have any disrespect. Because if he doesn't do that, I'm not going to believe it. Fluri's over here looking like an idiot because he went on a tirade last year about how he's going to break down and fall off, and he was going over the cliff. And then look what happened. And now he's looking at it again. This is about going into next year. I'm more confident in Derrick Henry going for 1,500 yards again next year than he is falling off. The guy does it on bad teams, good teams, but he's always been the consistent number 1 offensive option. Till you take him off the hill, he's the king. He's the king. He's done nothing to fall off this hill. The only reason you want to take him off is because you think he's going to break down, and he's showed you time after time that doesn't happen.
I don't.
I'm
not upset. I had him at 1 at one point, and I moved them around, and he's been my number 1 3 years, 2-3 years in a row. But I just. You mentioned like the Titans were bad last year. Well, guess what? They're going to be worse this year. So
didn't matter last year.
Yeah, but I don't know. He had a career high or almost a career high in carries. It's not that he's going to wear it down soon. It's just a matter of like he's been in the league for so long, like he can't keep sustaining it. Now he is still my number 3. He is still top 3, absolutely. But I just look at the numbers and I look at the team he's on. I look at the situation and there's question marks about where he might not finish the season with the Titans. I don't know where he's going to go. So there's just a little more questions than normal for Derrick Henry this year. And that's why I just brought him back a little. But like top 3 is not, I wouldn't say it's disrespectful. I mean, he's still in that realm. I would say Chubb, CMC, and Henry are all in a elite tier. And then you have like, the Taylors, the Jacobs, the Saquons, and then you have the Ramon Stevensons that they're so below.
Yeah, seriously, he ain't nowhere near that list. Yeah. I think if Derrick Henry does go to a new team, which you seem to be holding against him, that only helps him. I mean, there's not many offenses that are worse than the Tennessee Titans.
I don't know.
I don't think there's many teams that'll give him 50 carries a game, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
he needs to like
I don't know about that.
He winds into his carries throughout the
totally.
game. He builds. I mean, he gives the nastiest stiff arms I've ever seen. I wouldn't ever even try to tackle him, but
I just listen. As long as if you can give me an argument that doesn't center around him falling off or worried about him being older, then
huge factor.
But I think those are important
backs.
factors.
Like, and you know what? And until it happens, because you know what? This argument's already been made, and he's already proved you wrong. Until it happens, he's earned the right to stay on top of the mountain until that happens.
I have
more concern about. Geez, I have a year more concern about guys like Christian McCaffrey or Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley not holding up, and they're much younger. Derrick Henry's never been hurt. He broke his foot. That's not a major injury. Everyone
that was a major injury. What?
He broke his foot. Who cares? They break bones all the time.
He had to get surgery to fix it. It was a major injury.
Everyone, you get surgery to take your tonsils out. You know that's nothing. So you've yet to give me any good reason that doesn't center around him being older or having a whole bunch of carries. Which, I mean, he was pretty much the same age as Austin Eckler, and somehow he got in the top 3 with the same amount of touches. But whatever. So go ahead, tell me about Nick Chubb and how great he is and how he gives you a Chubb.
I will say first of all, if I had printed out my top 10 list and took it to Vegas, and I was like, "You see this list here? I'm going to bet you that there are 3 players that I'm going to match with Michael Fluri on." And they would tell me, you're out of your mind. The fact that we have Chubb both number 1 is pretty surprising, but I'm glad someone is smart like me.
He hasn't actually said it. He hasn't said it yet.
Well, I mean,
I wouldn't make any assumptions, Dakota. You never know.
Would you like to announce who number 1 is?
It's the guy that gives me a Chubb. It's Nick Chubb.
Okay. Chubbs and quads. What are we doing today?
Look, the only guy that gives me a bigger Chubb than Saquon Barkley's quads is Nick Chubb. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
That's a weird statement.
It's a weird statement for kids.
Thank you. Did you listen to that in your head before you said that out loud, or
No, I
just wrote it down so he wouldn't forget to say it.
It's true. I did write it down.
I mean, Tim, you made phenomenal points, man. Like, never had less than 5 yards per carry his entire career. He's never had less than 1,000 scrimmage yards his entire career. Never less than 8 touchdowns his entire 5-year career. And you always say, what have you done for me lately? What are you going to do for me now? Type of analysis, and he's not stopping. I mean,
nah, dude.
He's just so and the way he run, like Derrick Henry's a brute.
Oh yeah,
like, he just runs people like a bulldozer. But like for as big, let me give you the measurements: 5'11", 227 for Nick Chubb. He runs like butter, man. Like he's so smooth. Butter. His cuts are so crisp. He's like for the speed he has, for the agility. He's a very pure old school running back, and just is consistently healthy, consistently playing. I have no concerns about Nick Chubb, and I think he deserves his flowers as number 1. I mean, you had him at what, 3 or 2? Fair point. 2, 2 and 1. I mean, like I said, these 3 you can interchange because like CMC, if he plays a full healthy year, I would argue he's probably number 1. If Henry plays a full year and that line gets a little better, you'd probably have less carries and get more yards, more touchdowns. He could be number 1. And Chubb, same thing. If the Browns can get their shit together, he could be even better than he is. So this is just my thoughts going into the year. I think Chubb is going to finish as the rushing leader. I think he'll have the most rushing yards this year. And I think CMC and Henry will be right behind him. Close battle, but I'm giving the edge to Chubb.
Yeah, you talked about watching him run. He might be the best pure running back in the NFL. I don't know exactly what his receiving capabilities are. I think in college, Sony Michel took those opportunities in college, and Kareem Hunt, obviously, the last couple of years. I think he could do it too, and I think he's agile enough for it. When you watch him run the football, dude, there's nothing smoother than watching Nick Chubb run the football.
Like butter, baby.
Like butter, he looks awesome. And he had 1,500 yards and 12 TDs last year. Kareem Hunt kind of took a back seat, but he was still involved. Mm-hmm. Hunt being gone this year, I think he could have 2,000 yards rushing. I mean, he's primed for a big year, especially with 17 games. And he was Pro Football Focus's number 1 running back in 2022. We talked about We talked about Josh Jacobs being the number 1 running back. Jacobs looked really good. I think he was Pro Football Focus's number 2. Number 1 was Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is just, if you put him in the 80s, he probably puts up 2,000 yards every year. He's just that kind of running back. He looks so good. I'm excited to see what he does without Hunt this year, to be honest with
you. Yeah, I mean, I echo all those same sentiments. I'm just not giving up on Derrick Henry until he gives me a reason to.
Well, I'm actually
Chubb is
curious. I looked at PFF, so they have Chubb at number 1, Derrick Henry 2, and McCaffrey 3. So very similar to my lists.
Where was Ramondre Stevenson?
He's probably number 4, right?
I'm scrolling for a while here.
You know what?
Wait,
he doesn't have the Premier Pro
16.
subscription. That 16. Okay, that's reasonable.
Right in front of Tyler Algier from the Falcons.
Wow,
Tyler Algier.
Who's not even gonna
Tyler
start?
Algier, though.
He's not
well,
bad.
I think this is another good list. I gotta say, I don't think anyone's gonna top us with the surprises that you brought, Flurry. So hats off for that one.
Look, sometimes, the last couple of years I was kind of conservative, a little bit of Najee Harris thrown in there to give you guys a little bit of
Harris at 9 is not even considered, just asinine.
Yeah. This year I decided to go balls to the wall, just whatever I was thinking, whatever I was feeling, regardless of what you guys might think.
Let's see.
I'm happy with
Derrick Henry on speed dial, like, hey man, this guy Flurry talking shit on you, man. Like,
but hey, let's see how it ages. I'm sure it'll age poorly, but we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you being on, Flurry. You bring us the whole predictions. I mean, it's good to spice it up. We did a tight end episode last week, and it was pretty much the same exact list, match to match. So we needed some spice in there.
I mean, you hit us with number 9 early like that. How do we recover?
Buckle in.
Buckle in.
Look, guys, I didn't say you guys would like it. I just said I would tell you guys the truth, and that's what I'm here for.
All right. Well, you heard it here first.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Till next time, fellas.
Peace. Thank you again for listening to the Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks Sports Podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe on all your major platforms. Follow us on YouTube. Follow the show on Spotify and Apple. And follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Have a great day, and tune in next week.